But what else can people look forward to getting out of the system of yours? That, I mean, are there enhanced intuitive abilities, psychic abilities, you know, that sort of thing as well?
Well, on the Sedona Vision Quest system DVD, we do teach several blood pressure lowering techniques. We also teach them how to let the universe flow into them, how to be able to travel in time.
Hi, I'm Scott Ware, the publisher of Radiance Magazine, which can be found at radiancemm.com. And I have with me today Pete Sanders, who has developed quite an interesting system for really just experience Sedona in your own living room. Is that kind of close, Pete?
I think the main way I would say it is it's a system that allows you to get unstuck and answers for the rest of your life, whether you're in Sedona or not. Many people find that Sedona's unique characteristics seem to unlock their intuitive insights into life purpose,
Yes.
what they need for wellness. And, you know, in this challenging time where we may not be able to travel as much as we want to, I said, I want to put what I do with people in person here in Sedona
Yeah.
on the DVD so that even if they can't come to Sedona, and we love having people's tourist dollars here.
Sure.
I want to say that for the Chamber of Commerce, but during this time, Sedona's program is called Clean, Safe, Ready. We're really doing everything we can to welcome spiritual visitors to get the most out of Sedona and its outdoors. But when that's not possible, maybe somebody's having to care for a relative at home or
Sure.
other things, they shouldn't be denied what Sedona can bring them.
And that's incredible that you're able to do that for people, because yes, travel right now is a little tricky, although some people are still making it to Sedona. And you've got Sedona there in the background, which is awesome. And even the moon coming up there over your shoulder in the corner. And that's why our lighting's a little off, but we thought it would be great to make sure that just had Sedona there in the background. I've been to Sedona. I love it. I get excited even as I'm driving up and I see the rock turning red. And then I get there, I feel it. And I think even for people who aren't used to feeling these sorts of things, these energy vortexes, and a lot of people just say they feel good there. Isn't that right?
That's true. We have people who are not into spirituality at all, who they've said things like, I just feel like I can heal easier in Sedona. And, you know, as a 50-year spiritual teacher, but also an MIT honors graduate in biomedical chemistry and brain science, I've tried to put together the missing links to explain how people can do it in a sustainable way. So instead of momentary relief, they can have a system for sustainable well being. And my whole focus of my organization, Free Soul, has always been help people learn to be their own best teachers. So that's just the latest continuation of our 40 plus year history.
So tell everybody what your website is so they can follow along in case they want to check it out while they're watching this.
They can find out all about all our offerings, our instructors worldwide at freesoul.net, about our upcoming retreat in Sedona. I'm excited because we always have our winter retreat, the President's holiday weekend. So there's that extra travel day. And once out of every 7, 8 years, it also falls on Valentine's weekend.
Mm.
And that is this year. So I always seem to bring through new techniques for tapping universal love, love of self, love of life, love with partners, love connection with the divine.
Yeah.
And so this year, the retreat is entitled Limitless Love, Serenity Through the Storm. and we are going to offer it via Zoom also for the first time.
Okay,
So that even if people
excellent.
can't come to Sedona, they can experience it. But
Serenity through the storm. That's a good title for these times. You mentioned the quarantine. We're talking right now in October of 2020. Your retreats in 2021, and then people may be watching this in 2022 and beyond. So I'm sure they can go to freesoul.net to see whatever your current offerings are. Um, it's just fascinating that you've created a system, a way of experiencing the magic of Sedona, the vortex energy anywhere. And I know you care about this deeply because you do this as a nonprofit. You've been doing it as a nonprofit for years, isn't that right?
I established Free Soul in 1980 after finishing 5 years voluntary service as a top secret cleared naval officer. I was a ship driver. I wanted to experience being in the middle of the Pacific, middle of the Atlantic with no light pollution and, seeing the heavens. But I also visited sacred sites wherever I went, climbed Mount Fuji, visited sites all over the world. And, the bottom line of both my scientific vortex information book and the Sedona Vision Quest system DVD that we started talking about at the beginning
Yeah.
is to help people learn how to be a vortex wherever they are, to go beyond just the tagline of doing vortexes outside in to being able to do them inside out, being a vortex, figuring out what you need and how to move forward.
Now, I know that people can get energy from video broadcasts. They can pick up energy from just looking at a picture.
Mhm.
And that's why we put pictures around us or on shrines and whatnot of people that inspire us, move us, whether they're saints or whomever. Are we looking at a vortex in the background right now there?
We have a view in the background of one of Sedona's upflow vortexes. What makes Sedona unique is the neurostimulating effects of the red-orange color and the hope-inspiring effects of the fact that we're green year-round. And when I mentioned earlier, I've made a life purpose of finding missing links that help people do things quicker and easier. One of them from brain science, that it's a crime that this has been kept from people. There's actually an entire layer of the brain called the limbic system that is specifically designed to make people feel lousy. And the brain scientists, not me, say it generates over 90% of our negative stuff, our worries, hurts, angers, fears.
Okay.
And when people don't know they have it, particularly spiritual people, and they don't feel good, they punish themselves. They do, what's wrong with me? I thought I was more spiritual than that. Why can't I? And, if people get nothing out of this interview, what I hope they'll come away with is when you don't feel good, it's not your fault. It's your physiology. Learn to counter the physiology.
Okay.
And this was the piece missing. My first book, You Are Psychic, is 1 million copies sold, 7 languages. But I hadn't really explored the limbic brain fully. And in particular, my second book, the Access Your Brain's Joy Center book, helps people find and self-trigger mood elevation fibers in the brain that go to the spot in the hypothalamus that is the major mood elevation center in the brain. And this is all based on documented science, research, treatment. Dr. Robert Heath, back in the 50s and 60s, would surgically implant a permanent electrode into those fibers connected to a battery pack, like a pacemaker for the brain.
Okay.
And when people had regular pulses, they could function happily, normally, even if they'd been near catatonic depressive or worrywart. And his work fell off the face of the planet when LSD was discovered. Everything went to what drugs can we throw at the brain.
Sure.
What I basically said was, why have the invasiveness of electrode implantation and the $80,000 expense when we can teach people where these fibers are and how to self-trigger them with mind body for free? And
Is that what we're looking? Are we looking at that on the screen now?
Now, the darker lower loop is the limbic system of the brain. Everything within that, the lighter loop is actually part of the olfactory system, which is why aromatherapy works. Sense can get us out of limbic. And just as an interesting aside, Flagstaff, just north of Sedona,
Yeah.
has the highest concentration of ponderosa pines anywhere in the US. And ponderosa pines put out a vanilla smell that is soothing to most people. So people say, oh, it feels so good in Flagstaff. It must be the elevation. It's actually the aroma.
Okay.
But I was lecturing in Denver on this when I first made the discovery of how to trigger these fibers. And this doctor in the front row said, what an amazing discovery. Too bad it's never going to go anywhere and it won't make you rich. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you know, it's not going to make you any money because when you teach people where these fibers are and how to self-trigger them, they can do it for free for the rest of their life. They don't need you anymore. The real money is in a product they have to keep buying, and it really helps if it's addictive. So nicotine soothes limbic distress. Does that give you an idea why vaping ran through teenagers?
Yeah.
They have tremendous limbic anxieties, and you give them something that's supposedly not as dangerous as cigarettes, that can look like a flash drive, they can take it anywhere.
Right.
But that understanding about the limbic brain, Scott, is the piece that has been missing in spirituality and religion, because superstrings physics now flat out says we exist in 10 or more dimensions. So since that, soul is no longer a religious term. I can talk to a complete atheist and say, you as a soul, and I mean you and your 6 or more other dimensions, well, then why aren't people walking around living as souls? It's because they have this limbic brain like an anchor that's from our evolutionary past, keeping us in our worry anxieties. And when they don't realize it's there and it's not their fault, they can't get a limbectomy, they feel like they failed.
Right.
And, the limbic brain is designed to spot concerns. And all concerns are valid. We have the choice. Do we go limbic hamster wheel or do we go soul? And let me quickly, I can't do this demonstration live these days because of the COVID rules, but imagine me asking an audience, would you like to see why you should never worry about what you eat? And most people go, oh yeah, it'd be kind of nice. And I ask a highly sensitive woman to come up, stand next to me. I'm not a dirty old man. I'm happily married 43 years, but I found it doesn't work with guys. I'll explain why in a moment. But I put my hands on her shoulder and I say, tell me how this feels. I'm worried about you. That's terrible. And see, if you do it with a guy, they always say the same thing. It was fine, but I didn't feel anything. But then I cleanse her aura. I put my hands the same place and I say, tell me how this feels. I care about you. Oh, that feels nice. Care about what you eat. Don't worry about what you eat. You could eat the best nutritional diet, but if you go limbic hamster wheel, did I get the exact right type of organic almond milk? The nervous anxiety through the tissue might actually counter the good nutrition.
I agree. That's a good. I like that. Care about what you eat. I had put your book up there. I'm sorry. Let me go back to that real quick. Here we go. So you mentioned that, and you mentioned this before, that you were about to go into, well, someone had made you an offer and you said, no, I want to bring this healing to people. So I'm going to start a nonprofit, and which you've been doing for decades. What was it? What was that offer that you turned down?
The offer was basically attending Harvard Med School. I always loved medicine, but I grew up in Southern California and I've been a seeker for 60 years, started when I was very young. And it disturbed me that people frequently, if they were seeking, things were more commercialism. And I've been teaching for 50 years. So I obviously have products, but we try and price them nonprofit, and they're all, you'll notice on every one of my books or DVDs, it says the Free Soul Method. And that's not me, Pete Sanders. It's not even the organization Free Soul.
Sure.
It's the ideal of learn to live the unlimited potentials that are your birthright as a free soul. The You Are Psychic book, some of my first work at MIT was finding brain areas where when you focus there, it opens portals to intuition and the other higher psychic senses. And that's great for sensitivity, but it's equally as valid for protection. Because most people, when they try and be more psychic, they walk around, I want to be more psychic. And that's actually unsafe in a high population center because you pick up everybody else's limbic stuff.
Right.
And so knowing that you can stay shielded most of the time and tuned to the psychic reception areas in the brain and body to kind of open the portals, scan, and then protect back. And so what I tried to do in the new Sedona Vision Quest system DVD is say, okay, you can learn to trigger those fibers from the Access Your Brain's Joy Center book. You can learn to tap the psychic senses from the Your Psychic book. Everybody can, for free, go to freesoul.net and click on Free Soul videos, and they can watch and be led through the Soul Shift video, which is a 5-6 minute that helps them tap those dimensions beyond very quickly. That's my gift to everybody. And just a quick story of how that was developed. I worked very hard with the Navy to be assigned to a ship based in Japan. So I could travel the Orient, and then I could visit all the Zen Buddhist monks' temples in Japan. And I specifically wanted to watch Zen Buddhist monks as they were meditating, their auras. And Zen is all these impossible questions. You know the sound of two hands clapping, what's the sound of one hand clapping? And they're very dedicated. So you see them concentrating incredibly hard, and their aura tightens to the point of exhaustion where they shift. Their body aura dims, the soul aura brightens. The reason paintings of saints and religious figures always have the halo up above, that's more the soul energy field. And by the way, I put a whole chapter on the aura in the You Are Psychic book, but everybody always thinks black in an aura evil. If black is over the body, it can mean disease or dysfunction. If it's around the head, the mental energy field, it's usually more of an indicator of stress and pressure.
Okay.
And if it's in the soul area, more times than not, it's not evil. It's the person's bringing a soul bruise to the surface. It's like, you know, a soul pimple bursting as they try and be more loving with challenges. But the monks would get insights. And when they came back, though, they almost always had headaches, in some cases, migraines. And I didn't mean any disrespect, but I kind of jokingly called their process crunch catapulting for migraines. And I said, why don't we just teach people to ride the elevator? Focus lower legs and just go knees, waist, chest, head, shift. And that's what people can be led through if they watch the Soul Shift video at freesoul.net. Now, where the Access Your Brain's Joy Center book came in, think of the hot air balloon as having a bungee cord on it. So you start to shift, and then limbic brain goes, oh no, but you got to worry about this. Yeah, you'd like to be spiritual, but you got to worry about this. And so learning to trigger those fibers unhooks that anchor chain for times when you're under severe stress and your normal spiritual practices don't work as well. And then what I put in the Sedona Vision Quest system DVD is what I do with one-on-one with people. When you know all those, how can you also get unstuck? What are the key essences for how to get out of a valley that you seem to be spiraling around?
Okay, and I know from experience that a lot of people don't know they're spiraling or don't know they're stuck. They're just unhappy, even if they acknowledge their unhappiness. But what else can people look forward to getting out of the system of yours? That, I mean, are there enhanced intuitive abilities, psychic abilities, you know, that sort of thing as well?
Well, on the Sedona Vision Quest system DVD, we do teach several blood pressure lowering techniques. We also teach them how to let the universe flow into them, how to be able to travel in time,
Oh,
like the river of time, because frequently hurts are in our past. And if we don't clear the soot in our past, superstrings physics says everything exists in 10 or more dimensions. I mentioned that before. And here's the part: if people watch the PBS specials on it that will hurt their head, they say that some of those dimensions are tightly curled up little things. And at first that didn't make sense, because every time I felt like I've tapped dimensions beyond, it's this expansive feeling, which is what upflow vortexes help people tap. Here's what I think I figured out. You know how a tree has rings or a pearl has layers? Maybe those tightly curled up dimensions are like the layers of the soul pearl, where memory and in particular hurts are stored. And if we have hurts in our past, it piles up soul soot in those layers. Now here's why that's important. As amazing as superstrings physics is, and this is some of the stuff that's gone into in depth in the Sedona Vision Quest system DVD, there's something even more amazing they've come up with in science, that there's an energy that flows through everything that is 15 times more than what the average person thinks of as the whole universe. What most people think of as the universe is all the stars, all the planets, all the heat, every ray of light that's ever shown. That makes up, according to the physicists, less than 5% of the energy that's out there. You know about the Big Bang and the energy that is still expanding the universe from the Big Bang. I just call it the expansive energy. A spiritualist would call it the spark of the divine. That energy makes up 75% of what's out there. They don't know what it is, but they know it's there. Now, it's not just between galaxies. What are most atoms made of? Space. That energy is flowing through the cracks of space. It's what's pushing galaxies apart, but it's also flowing through the space of our atoms. But if our soul layers are sooted up, we're getting soda straw of that energy flowing through us instead of fire hose. So we are literally hiding our light under a bushel of our own making, to make a religious analogy.
so we're not clean in our aura, and if we cleaned it up, we would be more in tune with these energies.
Correct. And, you know, again, people tend to do this. Well, you're not a bad person if your windows are dirty. With all the fires that have been going on, people's windows have been getting sooted up.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't go, oh, I'm a horrible person, my windows are sooty, but you should clean your windows.
Sure.
And there are ways to go back, and inflow vortexes tend to help people go inward and heal hurts from their past.
Okay.
We do specifically cover in the Sedona Vision Quest system DVD keys for going in and clearing that soot and letting that light shine more, so people can go from spiritually going with the flow to glowing with the flow.
What is different about your life because you're living this way, as opposed to if you had never come across this thinking and this sort of system?
I suffer less.
Mm.
That's what serenity through the storm means. You know, my original founding phrase of Free Soul was make life a quest, not a test. Nobody says a quest is easy, but the minute you say quest, you think exploration,
Empowers you.
adventure, freedom. Well, all of a sudden, I was not in my 20s. I was married, 2 kids, a mortgage, and I adapted it to strive. I've always been an achiever without strife. In my later years, I had a freak accident at 16 at Playa del Rey at the beach. Ripped all the cartilage out of one knee. They said, you'll need a knee joint replacement. Maybe you'll make it 20 years. Well, being kind of frugal and teaching mind-body healing as part of Free Soul, I made it 50 years to Medicare and got it done for free. Yay!
Nice, good work.
And then the next summer, tromped the 2 bionics all around Switzerland, my wife's heritage country, for our 40th wedding anniversary. So when I was in the hospital having that done, my phrase became harmony despite hassle or hurt. It hurt, and it was a hassle. And I still have stuff I'm dealing with. I run a nonprofit. I help with spiritual groups in Sedona. I'm helping care for some ill relatives. And serenity through the storm means be the river, not just the rapids and the rocks.
Okay,
That's the big difference in my life.
that's the tagline for your retreat coming up, right?
Serenity through the storm.
Okay. And going back to the system, so right now people can just order this. They can, is it a DVD you send or can they stream it?
They can order either a digital download
Okay.
or the digital download and the actual product. If they also order the actual product at no extra charge, it just adds shipping. If somebody, more does everything digitally,
Yeah.
they get less the priority mail shipping, but it's
So let me ask
available.
you, why is Sedona so special? I mean, what do you think is going on there, or what went on there years ago?
Well, number one is the perfect color. Red orange is neurostimulating. And I won't drag you through all the brain science minutia, but
Good.
traveled the world as a naval officer. I never visited, you can't name me any country in the world where the stoplights and stop signs are blue. If you want to catch someone's attention, you make it red orange. Other places around the world, there is a giant red orange rock that rises out of the middle of nowhere that is a sacred site to the Aborigines in Australia. Southern California, 3 weeks without rain, all the hills go brown. I grew up there, 10 through high school. Even in drought, which we're in now, Sedona is green year round. And I don't know if it's biological or psychological, but the human consciousness associates green with hope. See, what most triggers limbic brain is feeling helpless. So anything that inspires hope can soothe limbic. And then blue sky visual vastness does that also. So that's number one.
Okay.
Low population density also equates to low psychic pollution level, less going on that level, and perfect elevation. People say, I'd love to go to Machu Picchu on a vision quest. Well, if they live in Los Angeles, they're not going to get much because it's above their oxygen comfort zone. You go above 6,000 feet, it doesn't interfere with your ability to tap the dimensions beyond, it seems to interfere with retention. If you've ever had a dream that was really vivid, but the minute you got to the kitchen, you can't remember all of it to share,
Sure.
that's what it's like when you're out of your oxygen comfort zone. So 4,000, 4,500 Sedona, we've got upflows, but people can come from Florida, Seattle, LA, Minnesota. Somebody wants to do the Vision Quest at Machu Picchu. I say, great, go live in Colorado Springs for 2 months or Flagstaff for 2 months, get the red blood cell level up, and then you'll get the most out of it. That's my practical side.
All right. How about your non-practical side?
My non-practical side says, never do anything without a purpose. And a lot of the Sedona Vision Quest DVD is about how people can get a sense of what is the soul learning opportunity in what they're going through now, so they can put purpose to pressure and pain.
Or set an intention.
Intention. Pressure without purpose makes earthquakes and heart attacks. Pressure with purpose makes diamonds and light. That's what goes on in the sun, or enlightenment.
I like that. Okay. Now, when you started doing this, you're balancing your MIT, you're an honors guard, and yet you're a spiritual person. I don't know how much of that you encountered in the Navy, let alone in top secret areas. Do you want to speak to that balance and how your spirituality? I mean, did you have to kind of keep things quiet, keep it under wraps while you were there?
I did have to keep it a little bit under wraps in the Navy, because at that time the Navy, and still, was like paranoid about Russian submarines. And
Sure.
officers, they don't have to let you out. Enlisted, your contract's over, you get out. So this was right when the Iranians took the hostages. So one of my phrases was, Ayatollah be willing, I'll be out of the Navy in 1980 and start my foundation in Free Soul. But one of my last jobs on the fleet flagship for the Mediterranean Fleet, I had a group of men that I called the Dirty Dozen times 4. They were the dregs. Their nickname was the Deck Apes. And I wanted to give them a sense of pride. And I said, men, on my earlier ships, I earned my water wings. They're like, you know, pilot's wings, but for ship drivers. So the flagship can't mess with me. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you your piece of the ship. And when your work is done, you go home. And I expected to have cheers and applause. And this story, I think, is in the intuition and vision chapter of the You're a Psychic book. And they looked at me and said, yeah, right. We've heard officers say that shit before. You'll always find more to do. So I said, I got to prove to them I'll keep my word.
Yeah.
So I sat in my stateroom, did the soul shift, using a combination of psychic vision, psychic intuition. I ran like a radar, all the places my men worked. And when something just didn't feel right, I'd get up and go there. And they could never figure out how Mr. Sanders always showed up right when they were goofing off. I put them back to work, got everybody finished by Thursday, and gave everybody Friday off. My boss came to me and goes, where are your men? I said, I gave them Friday off. They go, you did what? I said, hey, my predecessor scheduled this much work in a week. I scheduled 150%. They're done. I gave them the day off. And the division turned around. I got promoted early, wound up working directly for the captain of the fleet flagship. And I think I gave them a sense of pride in their work and their space.
Well, and what you did after that, a lot of us, when we look at our mission in life, or we set upon it and we realize what it is and we do it. And then we kind of have a little fun, or I do, you know, looking back at how I came to this point and what factors led me here and what experience I gained that feeds it. So with what you're doing now, how did being in the service and those other things happening to you early on sort of propel you and propel your mission?
I would say the big thing that affects me, and as I've learned through it and put these tips in the Sedona Vision Quest system video, that affects many spiritual people, is the misbelief that if I'm just doing everything right, I should always be on a high. Well, life, everything in the universe is waves, peaks and valleys. And, you know, when you go to the ocean, before the wave crashes, the water goes out. That's the trough of the wave arriving. And it's kind of a chicken or the egg. Which comes first, the crests or the troughs? It always seems like the shit happens first, because the limbic brain is designed to focus on the downs. When people know how to trigger those fibers from the Access Your Brain's Joy Center book, when life does start a downward cycle, they don't have to go as low. But what I also share with people that's been life-changing for me from the Navy time is rename the valleys. I call them pre-peaks, because if you have a spiritual purpose for being here, unless you have a downturn, you're going to die. If your soul still wants to learn something new,
Yeah,
it's going to send you. Do you know how they make polished stones? They tumble them in grit. We all have grit in our lives, or stuff that rhymes with grit. We can either be stinking up the joint or we can be making manure. So what the Navy taught me, and believe me, there's worse things than military, prison, but what it taught me is you can be in an incredibly confined system and you can still use it to explore spiritually. Four walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage. That doesn't mean we have to be hostages of the Iranians. It just can be the way the mortgage and the worrying about your kids or your job triggers that limbic. Because see, remember, in our evolutionary past, when that was developed, 30 was old. You were more survivable, miserable, worrying about stuff than happy. And so putting that all together, people can be living their spirituality. What I call it is live life as a soul, bring the mountaintop into the village. So I'm sorry for the long-worded answer, but you see, I get passionate about this. Because
absolutely. I had a question that just left me. You said in the in the space that you had in Radiance magazine in the September, October issue, you said that in the end, you tell people, know that you are beautiful, one of a kind, free soul, and that you are loved.
That has to do with that inner soul crystal, because that expansive universal energy is God's love, or the love of the divine, or the universal oneness. But when the windows are dirty, we don't feel it. We also don't feel it from our loved ones. We don't give it to ourselves. And the first step is knowing you deserve it. Go
Well,
clean the windows.
exactly, that it's our birthright. You in the video, in the DVD or the download, can you give a hint of what people can expect with that? Is there some little tip you can throw out there?
The main thing I'll tell them is that we teach them a very simple 3-step system for getting unstuck in answers, no matter what's going on in their life. And that's why I call it the Vision Quest system. Is
Okay.
you don't have to travel far away. You can apply the 5 elements of a brain compatible learning environment to what you're going through now, and to find a way to get to the essence. There's 3 themes. You are a soul, you have a body, make life a quest, not a test, and get to the essence, not just the scenery, and find purpose.
Okay, that's helpful. And how does Sedona feel right now where you are?
We're kind of on a cusp. We are very fortunate that most of our recreational areas have tremendous outdoor expanse. All the hotels have done a great job of buying into the Chamber of Commerce's clean, safe, ready. They're doing all smart things. We're blessed with our temperature, that there's a lot of outside dining even late into the year.
Sure.
So people are coming. Our mayor, we do have a mask order in Sedona. So people are generally staying safe. But the fact that they can be outside for dining and recreating, we're having a lot of people come and enjoy it. You know, it's a little bit less. And my vortex talk that I give every Monday, we've moved it outside from, inside a meeting room, because of some of the science that's coming out to say, obviously, it's better to be outside.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I'll be there in a few weeks bringing the magazines to all the locations there that are Radiance distributors. And I got it. I always do hiking. I got to hike because feeling that energy, and it's just the beauty as well. It's just hiking trails are so great.
The brain scientists say anything that pulls you to higher cortex gets you out of limbic. And you've heard this expression, you never made the connection maybe. Music has charms to soothe the savage beast.
Right.
Savage beast is the limbic brain, and music memory places are above limbic. To walk or hike, you have to use motor strip parts of the brain. But if people pressure their hike, so one of my phrases with hiking is know your pace, don't race. Stroll. Most of the time when people hike, they look down at their feet because they don't want to trip. That's limbic brain making them look down.
Okay.
The old saying, stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
Pause and just soul soar. Or when I went to Switzerland, I'm not a fool. I was only a year away from 2 bionic knees. They got cable cars that take you to the top of the mountains.
Right.
But hiking down, you're looking down. How did I counter that? I remembered to feel the upflow of the mountain soul soaring me, even if I had to physically be looking down. Through my peripheral vision, I saw the flowers and the plants reaching up for the sunlight. See, the great comedian Swami Beyondananda, one of his shticks is, the problem with planet Earth is there's too much gravity. So his answer is levity. I really don't care if somebody can sit cross-legged and levitate off a yoga mat. What the heck good is that? I want people to learn spiritual levitation, countering limbic brain, and living life as a soul rather than just the dinosaur physiology of the body.
And for people who doubt any of this, I mean, energy is real. Remote, energy healing can happen this way. and bringing the power of the vortexes of Sedona into your home, into yourself, is something that's real. And I imagine people have given you testimonials after having done this.
Well, I have tons of those, but you can also look to orthodox medicine. If people say, oh, this is just the placebo effect. Yeah, a drug can't be approved unless it's 25% more effective than the sugar pill placebo. That's the proof that the mind can do stuff to the body.
Yeah.
We know that when people go to hospitals, they get infections. Why? Well, there's germs there, but they're depressed about going to the hospital and they crash their immune system.
Yes.
So picture me leading a trail of walkers down the hospital floors, freaking out the nurses. As after I got the joint replacement, they make you walk 600 steps the next day. Music has charms to counter limbic. I adapted 2 songs. For pure inspiration, we did Battle Hymn of the Republic. So picture me leading this train of walkers. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the healing Humphrey's walk. I am walking with the spirit of the mind and power thought. I am lessening my pain, so I'll sleep better tonight. My knee is being restored. And for the grumpy old men, I still made them sing. We did Sam Cooke's Chain Gang. Boom, 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 boom. That's the sound of the men suffering to the Humphrey's healing walk. When I left, you can still get an infection after you leave. The nurses go, so do you have a leaving song? I said, of course I do. They said, you do? What? I said, well, you know, I'm ex-military. Well, what's the song? I got a new knee on my left, you're right. I got a new knee on my left, you're right. Going home, feeling good.
So, yeah, so then you must have healed very well with all that.
I did.
Nice.
2 months later, I was tromping around leading vortex tours on the rocks. And see, the point I want to make is we do some of these limbic soothers, but not fully. The reason music is so powerful is a song lasts 2 to 3 minutes. Flowers brighten the world, but people go, oh, nice flower. Smell the flower, see it. What they found is most healing in music is if it's upbeat melodically, but intense lyrically. Everybody thinks the Lion King Circle of Life song is great. Very inspiring. Do you ever listen to how negative the lyrics are?
No.
The day we arrive on the planet and blinking step into the sun. There's more to see than can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done. There's far too much. How do they counter that? The animals are on a pilgrimage. Where are they going? The pinnacle, upflow vortex. What's on the pinnacle? The new baby. Open babies soothe limbic. So, you know, don't just have the music headsets on. Listen to the words, feel them.
Sure.
So go to freesoul.net, watch the Soul Shift video, and learn to do it as you're listening to music. Now, practice and don't do it automatically first time while you're driving on Southern California freeways.
Right.
But you can learn to do all this stuff, eyes open, standing, and moving. Most meditations start close your eyes, and because closing your eyes is a limbic brain soother. You wouldn't close your eyes if you didn't feel safe.
Sure.
But life is not eyes closed in the meditation room. It's how to do this even when you're being limbically triggered, to rise above to that higher soul potential. All skills people can learn.
Wonderful. All right. Well, Pete, thank you for doing this interview. This has been very instructive and helpful and inspiring to reach out and get this information. And I know there's a lot of information on your website. And where can people find you again?
freesoul.net. And let me also, Scott, say thank you to you and Radiance Magazine for reaching so many people with your online edition, your in-print edition, and these interviews. Main thing we all want people to know is it's their birthright to have more and be happier and more joyous.
And they can find all that in themselves. They don't need external validation.
Again, I told you I love Swami Beyondananda, the comedian, and one of his shticks is nobody should ever go to a guru unless it's themselves, because if you just spell it slowly, guru is G. You are you.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you, Pete Sanders.
Thank you, Scott. Till next time.
Till next time, my name is Scott Ware with Radiance Magazine, radiancemm.com. Thank you for watching interviews on Xpnsion Network. Bye-bye.